back, so I have evidence that all of you did read it. So with that, I'm going to entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the November meeting.
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, good. We got minutes. So we'll move on to new business. And first is a presentation from the One Marshall County Regional Planning Team. And I'm going to recuse myself at this juncture because I have to be on the board of that organization. And so I'm not going to be participating in the discussion, but I'm very much looking forward to observing it. So please, Matthew and Lisa, if you'd introduce yourselves. You got the floor.
All right. My name is Matthew Summer. I'm the board secretary for One Marshall County. I also chair the Marshall County Arts and Culture Council. I work at Moontree Studios for the programs of Jesus Christ and also adjunct or associate professor for Marian University.
I've seen some of you from the presentation a few weeks ago. I work within Focus and with One Marshall County in an operations capacity.
All right. So is anybody here in the room not familiar with One Marshall County by any chance? I'll go over a little overview. I think hopefully by this point, most of us are. But Marshall County, it's an organization created to empower strategic community and economic development initiatives. So it started in 2019 as Crossroads. I'm one of the few holdovers from that original body, chairing the Arts and Culture Subcommittee at that time. But it formed in response to the Stellar designation process. And luckily in 2019, we won that, unlocking $16 million state funding with private and local matches. So our mission is to foster a unified vision for Marshall County's growth and prosperity through collaboration, innovation, and community-led initiatives. So like I said, evolved from the Crossroads Initiative, a real good, diverse gathering of different stakeholders, including government leaders, nonprofits, and private businesses, as well as residents. So there's 28-member board of directors right now. And then organized into 5 thematic committees: housing and infrastructure, quality of life, quality of place, education and workforce development, and business innovation and growth. So this year is when we launched our new board and our new title under One Marshall County, still officially 501c3 designation as Marshall County Crossroads. We then recruited and launched in March of this year, bylaws approved in April. And then we prepared for the Ready 2.0 applications, which was really hitting the ground running with the new board members. And happy to say that as of the announcement yesterday, we received multiple projects that got Ready 2.0 funding that were funneled through the One Marshall County system. And with the help of Focus, those applications got approved, most of them. So a lot of money that came into Marshall County, including the Culver Youth Community Center project, which I'm excited for.
And a big thing we did in support for those, in addition to some application help, was we helped coordinate a letter of support, both from One Marshall County and our board of directors, as well as with the county commissioners, that those projects could submit with their application to show that there was county support behind what they were doing.
Yeah, and it really kind of highlights the main role of One Marshall County is to bring those collaborators and stakeholders together and do a lot of the heavy lifting that is hard for people who are focused on operations to have the capacity for, especially in the nonprofit sector. They're just busy keeping the lights on and running the day-to-day. So the benefit of One Marshall County is to make the connections and look at it from that 50,000-foot perspective, as well as work with people who have the experience preparing applications for these specific grant processes so that we can put forward the best applications, as well as secure the matching funds that most of them require. So right now, where we're at the committee work of forming those members, these are the board members. That's fine. Keep going.
You bet.
And so these are the committees here, just to give you an overview of how that's broken down into those 5 areas. And those 5 areas are typically kind of how they break them down from the IEDC and other state bodies in terms of how they organize their different grant initiatives. So you can go to the next one. So this is kind of our timeline for 2025. We're currently in that process of doing a state review and gap analysis that'll lead us into a fully fleshed out strategic plan, along with our board goals and committee priorities. The challenge here is that we're building it from the ground up. So as opposed to just having people who are at the table determining those goals, we're taking in community input and gathering the data as far as what the priorities are from a grassroots standpoint, and then building those into a coherent plan and goals So then hopefully by October, December of next year, we'll have our action plans and a full budget developed.
And we understand that a lot of the municipalities and organizations have their own strategic plans. We are not trying to kind of usurp that at all. This is meant to be a resource so that when municipalities or and organizations are working on their initiatives and et cetera, they can say, when Marshall County has done this research, and we can refer to it as we are starting to figure out our next steps or working on a next phase of the project or et cetera.
So here's a breakdown of the 2025 budget. So you see the funding sources as well as the expenses. Right now, those expenses are primarily for the staff that we're working with through Infocus. So we don't have any paid staff at this point. That is something that is on our radar in terms of really keeping sustainability. Is probably at some point going to require a paid full-time staff person to keep it going. Right now, though, utilizing the skills and assets that the Infocus team has, that's keeping us moving forward. We really want to make sure that the foundation and groundwork has been laid before we hire a full-time staff member. And so that's kind of where we're at now. So you see the staffing operations sustained through annual sponsorships as far as that goes. So the ask today is for our 20,000 for Marshall County regarding, what's that, prior fiscal year 2024
Yes,
commitment?
so there was a previous commitment made by the Culver RDC for $20,000. And we would like to request those funds for use in 2025. If that is something that you guys are still willing to do, which we hope so, but we understand the plans change. So.
And then included was the memorandum of understanding that kind of lays out exactly what those deliverables would be for the investment.
Yes, and on a previous slide, this was noted, but I do want to reiterate that we will continue to be in communication. We'll provide updates on what we're working on in 2025 because we want this to be a two-way street with lots of collaboration and communication.
So right now we've been sending the board minutes to the municipal leaders. Always happy to include you. Hopefully when we have a website, we'll post those minutes to there for full transparency so everybody can see what's going on. But our main thing is just wanting to keep everybody in loop, understanding that communication is one of the most significant struggles. We want to be as assertive with that as we can without overwhelming people's attention span. Questions?
I remember when we approved this, was there stipulations on it or was it just a general amount to go to one Marshall County?
I honestly don't recall. I remember when Linda Yoder presented, and I think maybe Gary at some point, and Gary also has approached town council. I think if I'm not mistaken, going before redevelopment commissions, municipalities, as well as potentially corporations. And as this evolved, Infocus conducted a study with the old Crossroads team, which evolved into the new 1MC model, which took the old 10 pillars of Crossroads and condensed it down with the ultimate goal of having staff, someone paid to sustain the work, because it's always been a volunteer organization for the most part.
And we do want to help prevent burnout by having those paid staff and helping make sure that people have to feed themselves and run their lives as well. So making sure that they're not feeling that they're pulled apart at the seams with too many commitments that they don't also have buy-in for.
Yeah, as well as for continuity's sake too, to carry over, because sometimes working with volunteers, you'll have people that are in and out based on whatever projects resonate with them or align with what their paid job is.
I think one of the things that we had talked about putting on the deliverables, though, to have an agreement between a redevelopment organization and 1MC was aid with grant administration or grant application. Because at the time, I think Karen was here talking to us about normally if we're going to contribute to what is essentially a nonprofit organization that is doing some economic development work, we want to have some deliverables in that MOU. And I think when Linda presented at the time Infocus and Linda had come up with a list of deliverables that would work for redevelopment commission versus say municipality, which could do a more general operations type of thing, which we don't do at redevelopment. So I think we would want to draft an MOU between redevelopment and one MC with those deliverables outlined. And I think that was, I mean, there were like 3 or 4 on there. Grant administration and application is the one I remember most because that seems to be the biggest demand that some of the organizations were having of one MC.
Yeah. And just,
And there was like an ROI, return on investment of the stellar dollars and some of the other dollars that had come in through the old Crossroads team.
yeah, and essentially to save the expenses of hiring a consultant to help with the legwork that needs to be done for those grant opportunities.
And I believe in the MOU that we did provide, some of those deliverables are laid out, but we would be happy if you guys review that and decide that there's more that you want to add in. We would be happy to discuss that and add them in as needed.
We know who has that.
It was actually circulated.
Oh, it was this
Yeah,
time?
in
I
the
missed that.
materials. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. And it looks very similar to what it did about, I want to say, this time last year, maybe.
That's what I was thinking. And we already allocated it and never spent it.
Yeah. I served on the board last year and then I left the board at the tail end of it evolving into one MC. So I think you guys knew that already, but I wanted to make sure Jerry knew because I don't know that Jerry was around during that time.
I'd like to make a motion based on our previous approval of this. We reapproved the 20,000. Subject to that MOU. I'm sure you guys have read that over.
If you could handle the vote, I'd appreciate it, Sally.
Well, you can handle
All right, I hear a motion in a second to reappropriate the $20,000 for One Marshall County. To be payable after the first of the year, right?
I believe so, yes.
Payable after the first of the year, and can we do it all in one motion to say get authorization for Sally to sign the memorandum after legal review? All in favor?
I,
Any opposed? Thank you very much for your time tonight.
Thank you all very much.
Yeah, I got the one.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, one abstain. And I hope I didn't vote. Karen, would you like to, I was keeping your seat warm here. Karen.
that's right, I don't have. I just have to sit by the Andy.
Oh, I thought you meant the Kevin.
Wow. Yeah, that's a painful thing.
Then, and next on the agenda is presentation. This move with sponsorship. Consistent with some of the discussions that we had. Spending Main Street redevelopment. Kind of explain that on the back end of it, but at first I'd like George Schricker, who is the executive director, president, chairman, everything's for the wild. Right, he's got a bottle of water, and Paul Benedictus, who is a great friend and on the board at the Wilderness Fund, to tell us about this opportunity for an investment. Thank you.
Do you need us to stand? No, I always feel like I'm in traffic court when we do that. Yes, and it's- More rulers than you. Yes. So, we just want to take 2 minutes. We'd sent information out, last week to Marty, and I think you've all received it, with the Wild Rose Moon story, and then specifically what the, metrics and demographics look like for sponsorship as it relates to Culver. And we understand that around the funding occurs, and then we would work specifically with the organization that you fund in order to pick out the particular time, the details of it, so it meets your maximum requirement for the visibility for the town and support of economic development of the Main Street. But just to give a little bit of a background or a thumbnail on Wild Rose Moon, George, please jump in. I've been kind of I don't stop, so I have to ask them to jump in. But if you're not familiar with the Moon, it's a nonprofit organization. It's focused on the creative arts, specifically in an intimate performance venue that supports and develops in artists across the area. And at the same time, it's an education venue in that, focused as production is finding and developing talent for visual arts, audio, in the production side, and stagecraft. We have an active internship program. We do that. We're bringing people on to either develop and grow that talent in the region. The Moon is really been birthed from George and the work that he's done, and it's gone from a local Plymouth-based intimate performance venue to now a regionally recognized asset and resource that not only performs here, but is on WVPE public radio broadcast across the region in Michiana, as well as being on monthly broadcast on WNIT on public television. And we got the specifics of those, but an average performance is heard by at least 5,000 people and seen by close to 1,200 households, and that number is growing. We probably address two key areas for Marshall County in the quality of life and quality of place. It's that part of that fabric that occurs here, and we see ourselves as being that. And if you've been to the Moon, you should go back. If you haven't been there, go for a performance, be part of the audience. It's a gem that's in our own backyard. We really should take advantage of it. But as Marty said, this is about the sponsorship. It's a $3,000 sponsorship for a performance. And other businesses have sponsored, organizations have sponsored, and City of Plymouth, municipalities have sponsored. And they get a Michiana-wide recognition for that sponsorship. And all the breakdowns that we showed in the audiences. So it's live performances, radio, and television audiences that see this. The key is that when you look at that map that showed Michiana, everyone within that area is going to see or hear this and act on your message, whatever that message finally is. So that call to action that you'll be asking them to do, they can drive and be here and do that. It's also because they are not the summer transitional crowd that comes in. They're geographically here year round, so your message resonates regardless of when it's broadcast. I'd say that a nice part about this, and I'd broken down all the different pieces here, but anecdotally, as we've been going out there in the region, when I say, well, I'm from Culver, 3 out of 4 times somebody goes, oh, I've been there. I've gone to this restaurant. I went down to this shop. So everyone knows it. It just has to be put in front of them a couple more times for them to say, hey, I live here. I had to drive down there this coming weekend to do something or give me a reason to be there. But that's just the background I wanted to give you. Really wanted to answer your questions or clarify anything that we've written out in the documents to share with you. We think it's a good program. We're getting WVPE is already looking at moving us to a better time. We have a good time with them now, but the numbers that they get from us and our focus on the 35 plus age group is fitting where they're taking public radio. And we'll have a meeting in January with NIT. They just added us to a second channel. So what we do gets rebroadcast. So we see those as positive signs that it's regionally being accepted. And quite frankly, we just have to stay up with it. So I'll shift to questions.
Comment and then a question. I love everything about this. I love everything about what the organization is doing. I love the performances, the artists you brought into this region. Some of these shows are getting lots and lots of outside visitors too, that may stay at our Airbnbs, come eat at our restaurants in Culver. The connection between Plymouth and Culver and the arts is becoming strengthened through a lot of the work you all are doing. And just so you guys know, Matthew and George worked together in the Arts Committee when it was one Marshall County, and brought some dollars to the production side of the organization video production, audio, et cetera. I think it's wonderful. I love the partnerships that you also take on, George, and the board. This to me is economic development and quality place, quality of life. My question would be, would it benefit us, Culver, to do more than 3,000? Can we do 6,000? Would it be 2 events we would sponsor in that sense, or just help with the
So,
road?
so there's a couple different ways.
Yeah.
We've had people do something where they'll sponsor a season, but that's a $10,000 sponsorship, but that's visibility over time.
Yeah.
We've had,
Can I mention?
Yeah.
That, the 10,000 sponsorship gets you in the front of the TV show, as well as on the radio show. So the front edge of the TV show happens we're right now in a slot, a very great slot, a good slot. On Saturdays, we're on the first Saturday of every month, but we occur I don't know how many of you are familiar with PBS programming, but we're right after the mystery series and right before Austin City Limits. So that's a really great transitional spot, because even if they don't see the whole show, we get that ad space right after mystery, and people might be hanging on after mystery to see what's going on. So we get that little mention, and so there are those slides in the beginning of the show. But as Paul mentioned, they're $10,000 slides. But it gives you an idea of what can be done, and we're really excited because it's seemingly we're getting more and more support from the South Bend region. And that's tying us more and more to spreading Marshall County into the Michiana region. And so we really think we can be an active voice for Marshall County in Michiana, around Michiana, and that includes parts of Michigan as well. And our design as an my background is in education and performance. And so, I performed for 15 years as an independent performer, working in schools with school children, with also special needs populations, and developing curriculum that would reach out to people of all educational orientations. I mean, because people learn differently. My curriculum that I created was always about trying to address those needs. That's how I see the radio hour too, and all the educational products that we would produce out of Wild Rose Moon. Because although the radio show is our flagship, we don't want to stop there. We want to keep developing educational products and keep integrating interns from the area. Keep bringing in and make it a true educational, arm of what we do here in Marshall County. And we've already, I think, moved about 15 interns in the 15 or 20 interns through our programs up to date. And so I think that those educational opportunities are really essential to building a workforce and attracting people to the community. So those are the designs that are in place. Now, getting everything off the ground takes time, but we've at least gotten the radio show going. And it looks like we're going to get continued, because Civic Theater, I don't know how many of you are familiar with Civic Theater in South Bend. They have actually, I was at a gathering of art people in South Bend. They actually came up to us and said, when can we get the radio show in Civic Theater? So, I mean, those are the kind of connections we're making. And I think they prove that we're really kind of beginning to take off in the region.
Sure.
So I think we could build on that. And as we add monies to our programs, we think we can bring on people that will help not only help us produce more programming and enlarge the programming that we have, but also develop new programs. And those are already formulated and in the pipeline, those new ideas. So we would love to get the whole thing off the ground.
So in this particular case,
Yeah.
what what would happen is we would have sponsorship of a show in, I think, a May timeframe.
Sure.
Yeah.
So that would be produced then, and then it would be aired on
So
TV
you were
in
looking
a
for the, you were looking for
September
September
time.
timeframe,
And I took that idea to our visit Culver, or the visitor center, and also talked about it with the Main Street organization to see what timing would work for them, because you know, we get a lot of people already here in the middle of the summer. I don't know how much we need, but what I confirmed is that this is exactly the demographic that they're trying to attract. You know, they're within 50 miles, right? And it counts as tourism, and these are the people we're trying to get messages out to. In that a May, you know, before the season, a call right
You have a
into
live
town,
performance
and then
in
a
May,
September
you have
timeframe
September,
as, you know,
August, September, audio, radio in August, and then September would be the television show. So you have the double, because we're one off, and we don't run them at the same time, so it's
Right.
So you'll get the double shot.
Plus, you can work with us because our products go up online.
Mhm.
And so you can work with
We can
us.
promote
and-
that out.
and
of
help develop us as we help develop you.
Right, well, we are doing a Main Street renovation as a focus for next year. It's a multi-year, you know, that maybe a decade-long, you know, process that we're embarking on, but you know, we gotta start somewhere, and I think that featuring our Main Street retailers and our restaurants would be ideal to do that in the May and a September timeframe. We just gotta put together the message.
Especially if it's coming out August, September, when things slow down,
Right.
the more
Well,
we're promoting
people
that
let it
time frame,
drive.
the better, yeah,
Let's do the Wine Fest next year, right?
Well-
Wine,
in the fall.
that's something.
Yeah, right, yeah.
I just want to bring it back to this. So
Okay.
back to Ginny and to your points, whatever sponsorship you do, the minute we receive the commitment for sponsorship, you will be on our website. So it'll be passed through link. So whatever you're doing, you know, because, for example, Coca-Cola just sponsored us. They're getting added. They're supporting us in a couple of our programs. They're going to get added in. So we'll have a sponsor section on our webpage, as well as we'll tie it into other social media. We've been engaging a consultant that's taking us through our new marketing plan and, you know, how to leverage all the social media aspects. So there's that piece that's just a live feedback to wherever you want it to drop to, as people are going, oh, the moon, oh, sponsor, oh, town of Culver, or whatever, however you want to go. Who is that? And you click through it. We'll have those supports that occur regardless of when your show is.
Right.
So you'll have some of that feed. You'll be able to also feed back into us from your Facebook site saying, hey, we're sponsoring this show. So there's all those pieces that will happen. The biggest difference as we've talked to people is dwell time. So each sponsorship, as George said, the ones that sponsor a full season, you want to be seeing all the time. And some of the corporate sponsors are looking at this saying, yeah, that's what we want, see all the time. And you still get a tagline. When it comes to the sponsor of this show is specifically sponsored by X. And you get mentioned as that sponsor. You get you get a little bit more focused coverage with it. And however you want to go in what direction it needs to fit into your strategy. And obviously, this is a beginning relationship. This isn't a transaction.
Well, I'd like to see the show come to Culver, right? Once we get a venue for you, you know, then you want to do it, right?
Yeah.
I want to say the other aspect on what George was saying about the educational component and internships. That is a huge partnership as a school corporation that we need for students. They have to have an internship to graduate now.
Yeah.
So that component of that, some of the money from CRC is to support education and support schools. And so that component, not just for Culver, but for all the surrounding schools, is that you would be a venue that we could reach out to and say, we have 2 students who are interested in broadcasting, radio, TV, production, and you would be able to take them in as an intern.
Right. On a different level where speed next month, they've given us interns. So at MUAC, we just want to their location, and whether it's through CTE or whatever you want, we can do that. I don't know the regulation or ramifications under 18, over 18.
They're removed them all so we can
Okay.
get this done.
So
Karen does.
we just had a.
You better, I write that down.
We added technology as one of our internships because it's experiential for the performance arena, so we added that. So
Purdue has an excellent hospitality program.
Yeah, meeting, yeah.
We've had interns from Ball State, IU, what's the name of that? Oh, come on.
Hope College?
Hope College, right? Thank you. Hope College. And Purdue. Yeah, so.
Those are
Well,
good.
in the interest of time, we got a pretty full agenda, so I'm,
Okay.
I'm just thinking, I know we did, part of our spending plan is specifically for arts and culture, and I'm assuming this is a 2025 spend.
Yeah.
That, you know, whenever the agreements get worked out, I would be thrilled if we could take out of that bucket a full, I like the idea of the $10,000 sponsorship and more exposure. And I realize it's the first year and part of it is involving one particular program, but if some of those funds even contribute to new programming or the internship program, you know, whatever you did with the sponsorship, if you will, I'm comfortable with that because I think this is one of our, I mean, in terms of the region, but also in terms of Culver, one of the only arts and culture plays happening. And I think we need to back it.
This is what your recognition, your visibility. Hypothetically, you took the fall season, the spring season is be too close in, and not for what you need. You took the fall season. Except we could even split, it, but still do the May thing and then do the rest in the fall season. You would get exposure from September through November, because that's when the performances occur.
Right.
You would get follow-on exposure from October through March of 26 on the radio and television. So they tail because they have to be produced.
Mhm.
So you're talking about, and then of course the online piece goes all the way.
And to
through.
me, that's the
But that's,
ideal time for us to get exposure.
we didn't come in to talk about that and lay that
No,
out,
we
but that's your that's a bigger window. And your dwell time is you're seeing more and more over time. And the product stays with the performance. So this isn't an ad that gets taken out because we build it into our performance. Every time we broadcast it or rebroadcast it, it gets played again.
That's true of our interns too, always get mentioned in credits. So we're always mentioning the interns. That way they get something. Because if they get on an episode, then they can say, I was on that episode.
Right, right. Any other thoughts, Sally, Sarah, Jerry?
I agree with Jenny and Karen. I love the education aspect of it. It also goes along with the comprehensive plan, bringing culture. These kind of events, and I really like it. I think it's the exposure, if we can get it more in the fall. Be on their website, bring people in for a weekend.
Yeah,
Sign in with some of the other festivals maybe. And then eventually have, you know, a show here, done here in town. Great.
I agree. Anything, Jerry? No.
If you've never seen the show, we're happy to send you a link, actually, to.
It's a good show.
So I'll entertain a motion then. Jenny, you want to put it together?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we approve a $10,000 sponsorship to the Wild Rose Moon for the specific purpose of radio and television deliverables.
In Michiana.
All right, Jenny's made a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, Sarah. Any discussion, any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of $10,000 sponsorship for the Wild Rose Moon for the radio and TV programming, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Thank you very much, Jim.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it.
Marty will work out all the details. You tell us who to talk to.
Yeah, we're gonna figure out, you know, at the visitor center, is there a key partner in getting this right? And it's on Main Street. But yeah, use me, right, as the conduit into that.
You just tell me where to go.
And also, I'm happy to come down and talk to anybody, so.
Yeah,
you-
thanks,
you
George.
should talk.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Great opportunity.
All right, let's then, go to
Let's transition
transition. All right, yeah.
to the main course here. Here we go.
Steaming up.
I put together a hit sheet real quick for the opportunity that was put in front of me. About a month ago, the town of Culver was approached by Dennis Quaid. Viewpoint, it's a PBS nationally ran documentary special. They run many documentaries. They specialize kind of our gap filler between after the Antiques Roadshow and whatever's program is next. What we're looking at is exposure on a national level of around 50 states over the course of a year. The opportunity was brought to us by InFocus, actually. The work of InFocus and Make My Move actually caught their attention. We didn't catch anybody's attention yet on the move, but their demographic is 150,000 plus households in terms of income. They're looking for young couples, they're looking for remote workers, and they're concentrating that series on precisely what I think should be our target audience for Culver right now. It was opportunistic when it came across my desk. I approached, kind of trying to build a synergy out of this. I approached Marshall County Tourism for $15,000, and they immediately recognized the value in it. We're going to try to weave a narrative together. I think there are a couple narratives that can go into it. You can look at the actual timing of it. You get a lot of, I guess, for lack of term, bang for your buck. You're getting a 5 to 7 minute. They told me that can run up to 10-minute documentary. It's a mini documentary, but it's going to run for a year nationally, and it's going to hit 50 states. You also get a high quality production piece that you can put on our website that is absolutely ours. We have control over the script and final script approval. We're working with the academies currently to weave them in. We did not make an ask from them because this is about the town of Culver, which they are an essential part, but we want to drive the narrative. The lake is actually, I think, the focal point. The history of Culver demonstrates it. We have evolved from an agrarian community into our next phases with the Culver Academy joining us in the 1890s, and we're pushing forward. We're kind of at a cusp, and I think we're in an interesting position. And the question of the narrative is, how do we move forward? How do we take the quality of life and the quality of place that we have and move forward in terms of economic development? We all know that we're challenged industrially and manufacturally because of our location, but precisely, I think we're a remote working community. We've done the trails, we've built a base, we have 300 unit housing we want to highlight during that special, show that we've made the necessary infrastructure preparation. We have a comprehensive plan that clearly spells out our growth we need to get concentrating on, but this is an essential part. We need to bring in the people. I cannot think of a better opportunity, to be honest with you. Production will start in late April, May, because nobody wants to watch a film about Culver in February. It's like the winter Russian front, and abandonment. But I think they'll be coming in. We'll be working on the script currently. I gave them the questionnaire research, focusing on our narrative about Lake Maxinkuckee in the center, and essentially how Culver has historically been a sanctuary for Culver alumni, also writers and artists and poets. We are an art and culture community ready to be reborn again, whatever that means. And I think we have that opportunity, right? What I'm asking from you guys, to be precise and concise tonight, I'm asking for the $15,000 to match that of Marshall County Tourism. We're going to apply it, and I think when you see the final product, you recognize the good that you did. And Town of Culver would thank you for that.
Is the
Questions?
the tourism 15,000 is contingent upon our match.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of packaged it together. It was matching the town. So I said, we're going to find 15,000 for the town. And so, yeah, it was, and they readily, we had the check. We're not even waiting in the mail on that one. That's an essential part. We want the narrative, not just, it is obviously Culver focused, but the narrative has to extend beyond Culver. It has to include Plymouth. It has to include the regional outlook. That one of the best parts about living in Culver is you are tied into this network of resources from Plymouth to Bremen, and they're readily accessible. You're not sitting in 2-hour traffic trying to get there. And And we want that narrative to come through.
Would Marshall County Tourism have say in the content of this as well? Or
Because Marshall County Tourism did not. What they do have is logo recognition. So we're gonna put that in there. Mark DeMoore is gonna probably be a spokesperson on it, and underneath Mark DeMoore's name will be Marshall County Tourism. So we're gonna get that kind of exposure for them. We have the Culver Academy's logo. They'll probably do a small piece on that. Trying to get as many different narratives as possible, woven together, because that's the complicated part about Culver. There are about 3 threads of narratives that have to coexist, from the lake to the academy to the community. Obviously, I've talked to Karen about including community school, getting shots of the school, getting that narrative woven in, because it's an essential part. And I think she would agree that what we're trying to attract is residents. We're trying to show people that there's a quality of life here you're not going to get anywhere else. We could also use this video on our websites. The school can use it. And I really think this is an essential part for a target audience that's going to exist up north. If Amazon comes through and Microsoft, I want to put this in their HR department. I want to get in front of those people and show them, listen, sure, you're going to drive 20 extra miles, but isn't it better? No offense to Walkerton, but come on down, right? Or wherever else. I'm not trying to bribe them or anything, but live on a lake, man. It's a nice life here.
Well, I'm excited that tourism stepped up for us on
They
that.
surely did. They were very receptive. to
Yeah,
me.
and I think the business model that they're looking at is making sure the communities have skin in the game. And that, we do our part, they'll match. And I think this was a smart project for them to invest in, and it's a good project in general. The town council obviously supports it. And it's right up our alley from a standpoint of what we can support. This is marketing at its best. And this is an excellent ROI.
As a group, we are already involved with what's called Make My Move, which is a remote worker platform to recruit out people who want to move to South Bend, Elkhart, and Culver is one of the towns as the rural development. So we're already out there on that platform. We're just hoping it works by
Yeah.
having more housing to pick from. So to know that they have that option and get it on that site too is a plus.
I'd also like to think that people already that are temporary residencies here will see something like this and ask the question, why am I not here all the time?
Yeah.
Right? So the convert, right? So try to
is this
get
all
this.
that's needed, the 15 from?
The 15,000 and the 15,000, it covers production costs. It covers their team coming in the spring for the shooting. So this is the one-time ask, and it's going to cover our total expenses into it. And quite frankly, I don't know where I can get better exposure for Culver for 30,000.
Tribute the 15,000.
The viewpoint documentary. To the viewpoint.
Don't forget the Dennis Quaid part. That's the
Yes,
best. But no, we don't. I know, Sarah. I knew you were going to ask that. Next best thing. I'm here.
Please get her
See the
on.
resemblance?
I'll get her an autograph. I'll try.
Is there a second? I can second it. I'm second.
Thanks, Mark.
Any further discussion? Any opposed? Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, great. Determine January meeting date. So we are currently scheduled for, I think, January 23rd, the third or fourth Tuesday. Now, or Thursday, sorry. So we are all subject to reappointment, or you have to raise our hand to say we want to be reappointed, right? But so this is this may well be our last meeting. That was a group thing, but we should at least set a date for the next meeting, and I'm going to assume that there's going to be some town council members on this commission in 2025. The idea of having it on the same day as the town council meeting made a lot of sense. I think it worked pretty good for us this year, right?
I think so, because some of them even came and sat and listened before the regular meeting for the council, and that's nice because it keeps them more engaged.
would it be better since we had some conflicts on that fourth Tuesday to maybe go to the earlier,
Second.
the second Tuesday, or I keep saying Tuesday, I mean Thursday, the second Thursday? It would be more predictable and frankly, it would resolve a conflict.
I guess my question is, when was the council going to vote on?
Appointments.
The ninth, I think. I
That would
think,
be
So
the
is that-
second Thursday.
Is that our next meeting on the 9th? 'Cause that would be the second Thursday of January.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be the second.
Or for the first month of the year, we could do the 16th instead, if that worked. The following week,
we do that,
and then the next month, we could go to second Tuesdays if that.
second Thursday.
Yeah.
I don't think we have a closed agenda for that last meeting in December either. It to address the question of when the council is going to vote on
Yeah, we can't legally
No.
appoint until the new year.
New Year. That's
So it'll
true.
be the 9th.
So,
So
Always with the regulations.
all right, correct.
Never.
So why don't we call it the 16th?
Follow
You truly are.
16th
The 16th
at 5 o'clock.
for ourselves or our successors. We're gonna commit them to January 16th.
They were
All
16.
right. 5 PM
Got it.
here. Okay, thank you for that. Um, Main Street renovation project. Can I put that off just for a minute? Why, let's get through the financial report and the claims. Because I'm a little weary of time, and wary, I should say.
Sure.
I'm weary.
The word play.
All right, the November financial report. You all had an opportunity to take a look at it. What it says is that as of month of November, our balances are 776,000, total 776,370. That is right on the projection. At this point, we do have some revenue coming in, significant revenue coming in next month, which I anticipate will bring us up significantly over that number, maybe into seven figures. So we may have understated our expected total revenue or bank account, I should say, for next year for the spending plan. The spending plan was at 1.2 million. And I suspect we're gonna wind up with something probably closer to 1.5 million. So not bad news considering all the ambitious projects that we've got slated for ourselves, but that is how it looks right now. My commitment is to, once we have the December expenses all put to bed, is to do a review, the final report for the year. Revenue expense report for the year, and I'll provide that to the members here as well as the town hall. So with that said, I'm gonna ask, is there any questions?
What Karen asked us to defer?
That was the December one.
December one.
What we're considering is the November month end
Okay.
financials.
I would motion to approve the November financial report.
Thank you, Jenny. We've got a motion to approve the November month end financial report. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. So
I thought.
right?
As long as you're running dead.
We know what, get out of bed, so
Still.
Said I've attached November and what I know of December, the December property tax distribution. The only thing missing from December financials is interest. I won't know that till January. I will ask that you hold off on approving as the new accounting system isn't completely updated. So I am unable to reconcile for November.
Oh, for November.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Never mind.
I'll pull my motion off the floor.
Thank you. For
Motion provided to build their
I read
bed.
there in conjunction with the December. All right. Never mind.
It's a weird feeling to laugh and find this funny.
All right, let's talk about then the claims. We've got a total of 4,899 claims for the period November 16th through December 20th. We've got the photographer from the Holiday Hop. We've got some printing banner expense from Bowen relative to the Holiday Hop. we have a rather dated bill that finally was received from WTCA for radio exposure relative to Lake Fest, Fall Fest, and that we think Winter Fest from last year, actually. And the best we can determine is that the change in ownership at WTCA created an accounting problem for them. They finally are now getting their books straight. But we did confirm with the Visitor Center that these ads ran for 2 weeks each for each of these events, and that it's a legitimate expense. The conservation fund for 1321 is because of the Trail Phase 3. And it apparently is a bat sanctuary back there. And so this is the cost associated with what, Kevin? Keeping the bats happy or?
The preservation of the bat, Marty, that's the best I can.
Providing housing for them too.
And that makes you,
It also provides for emotional support for the bats as we come in and make our
it
trail.
usually delays. your
And they keep ticks
construction,
down.
And they make you do an environmental.
I have no idea.
study.
It's, yeah. Thank you, Jenny, for bringing
You're
some
welcome.
sensibility to that.
One day he'll understand.
But we
it.
don't have to raise them over the trail height, flight patterns or anything.
No.
If we weren't using federal money, they wouldn't care. about
We
the
have a
bats.
release form for the bat
It's
leadership.
just because that's federal dollars,
We're
they
fine.
don't care about the bats, otherwise. they-
And $1,293 is a side grant for Camping Max. That's the total. I'll entertain a motion to approve claims.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion, any further discussion about bats or anything? All in favor of approving claims, please say aye.
I,
Any opposed?
They are.
They're
The
also.
ones in my house are endangered, I can tell you that.
All
right, so let's talk about the Main Street renovation project. I wanted to provide an update. And I've got 2 requests for your consideration. So, excuse me, you'll recall in the spending plan, we put aside a significant amount of money for actual capital expenditures dedicated, or with the idea that got some park improvements for sure, but we also want to make sure that we focus on Main Street renovation. We also put in our spending plan $150,000 for professional services, and that across the gamut for municipal advisors and legal expense and stuff like that, but also in mind that we, in order to do it right, would want to get access to people that actually have renovated main streets before, know what they're doing, and can give us some good professional advice on what the vision should be, what the, the master plan should look like, and also how we might go about executing that. So toward that end, the Main Street organization developed Culver has gone into the market and solicited requests for proposal, and they got 3 proposals back, and this kind of one relatively quickly, but they're still looking at 2 of them. And I'm going to talk about one in kind, and each one of them has an ask for you. So the first proposal is from an organization, and I'm not going to ask you to approve these proposals at this point in time. So just know that's not what's happening here tonight. But there's an outfit called Small Nation. They are out of a place called Bellefonte, Ohio. They've been working at redoing the downtown there since 2012. They have renovated 56 historic buildings and storefronts, attracted and launched 17 new specialty retail stores, 7 downtown eateries, 3 new event centers, upper floor apartments, and created upwards of 180 jobs. They are an interesting firm because they're essentially real estate, their roots are in real estate development. And then they kind of branched into consulting once they saw the success that they had in redoing this town. They said, well, maybe we can teach others to kind of do this. But they eat their own cooking. So when we were to engage with them, we would be expecting them to be putting development dollars into the project here. In fact, they would want to do that. They wouldn't want to work with us just on a consulting basis. So the way that you work with them is twofold. You go to Bellefonte, Ohio, and you look around and see what they did, and you meet with them. And then if you like them and like what you see, then you have them come to you. And it's the have them come to you part is when it starts to cost more. And that's why I'm not asking you for that part. Or Develop Culver isn't asking you for that part tonight. But what Develop Culver would like to do is to have their expenses reimbursed for hotel and mileage for this visit. And what they plan to do is have 5 people, not all from Develop Culver, but representatives from the town. I imagine some of us might get approached to do it. And maybe some others, but up to 5 people and with expenses up to 1,500. And then the way that they broke it down is, some car mileage, 150 for the hotel. And that comes all the way up to like $1,300. So what I'd like to do is get authorization from you to reimburse whatever crew winds up going there up to that amount as a first step. And
Can they reach 5 people, Marty?
no, they can have more, but they didn't want to ask for more than 1,500. So
I only asked because I was thinking it would be nice if they approach some of the merchants downtown, have a couple of people who are experiencing our downtown to see something outside of it. That was a pretty powerful study when we did that.
Right.
I don't know, long before COVID. Do you remember that? Were you part of that group?
we went, yeah.
We went to different tourist communities to see how they were doing things. And I mean, we did come out of that with some ideas for Culver that got implemented. And I think at the time, we had a chamber person or two, a council member or two, redevelopment, et cetera. So if they were, including merchants, I would have no issue at all with the idea of this or us helping to pay for it, even if it's more than 5 people. If at least 2 of them were merchants that we could have as part of that team, especially if they're, that's a real plain based kind of activity in my mind. And we're gonna need buy-in from the merchants, no matter what sort of plan or vision gets set, right?
Right.
And their participation. So, I would be willing to do this beyond the 1,300 or 1,500 or whatever that cap was, if they needed to have a couple more people join in.
I don't think that stipulation is going to bother them at all. I think that's their intent.
Yeah, and if it's approximately $300 a person at the 1,500, then I'd say you add another 600, let's say, and
Okay.
maybe we approve up to 2,100 or something. And that way they can invite a couple merchants in.
It echoes something that was communicated to me this week, not to interfere with the meeting, I apologize, but it was mentioned loosely that they would, not to this extent for the trip, but they want to make sure their voice is heard in the process. And I think Jenny kind of captured that in that. I'm wondering too, and it's a question if we're considering from all angles, do we bring somebody who works in our streets utility from an infrastructure standpoint?
Mhm.
They might ask questions that are different
The
than
town engineer is
Yeah.
100%.
ideal person.
I just think that mixing that together, and it was just a thought.
That's the thing, I think, when I have been thinking about that whole office defenders thing, what do you have to do infrastructure wise with electricity? So if you want to do, I want to do a Christmas market downtown Culver, but you need way more infrastructure. Electricity alone, we can hardly handle entertainment on Main Street. You know what I mean? So I think that's a really good point. Even a guy like Bob is gonna note that and see those things.
So the Main Street organization is evolving. And has Bart Johnson, who has a couple of stores, well, the laundromat in a store is very involved in these conversations. Is
That's great.
participating in all the conversations. Karen's been part of that. I know Kevin has been part of some as well, so, they recognize the need for that stakeholder group in particular to be involved.
I assume they would be comfortable submitting receipts for their hotel, their food, et cetera. In which case I would make a motion that the CRC approve up to $2,500 for the travel expenses of the group that would attend this.
Three, 300.
With the,
And with the stipulation of
That
at least
they produce receipts. And that
produce
they
receipts and
involve at least 2 merchant
at least 2 merchants.
owners. But, you know.
Got all that, Sarah?
They may not necessarily get to who want to go, but at least an effort
I
to
think
get.
Barb's.
We want to have
Bar for sure,
regulations.
depending on what, we're looking in the end of January.
We want to have
I'm
the
not going.
regulations of how much per person or just 2,500
Yeah, as a cap.
to be reimbursed, because if everybody's riding in 2 cars, you know, they're taking
Yeah.
8 or less. Then that's still money to cover everyone's hotel room.
Yeah.
Meals.
And if they need a third car or something, it might.
What would you recommend?
I would say as long as we do like 2,500 and not per
Okay.
person. Yeah, they get receipts for.
Produce receipts, 2 merchants, 25. That's the motion.
Yes,
Is there a second?
thank you.
All right. Any further discussion on that? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The second is a firm called Veritas out of Indianapolis. They are a much more typical municipal advisor consultancy type firm, but they do have an specialized expertise in Main Street renovations. They did come to Culver. They spent time looking around, meeting with us. They have to create a real master plan for us that would include, you know, specific development or redevelopment opportunities, you know, changes in use that we may want to consider. Retailers, they have the ability to put you together with major retailers, major developers to do this work. They have the ability to help execute on the master plan once it's developed. They can put a pinders to Papa's vision and then drop a, you know, 3-block Main Street renovation into the context of that plan. They have the ability to develop a lot of data as well, but so do we. I think we've got a lot of data already from our comp plan and with what economic development can do for us. So they broke that part out of their proposal. So at any rate, I think they would have something that we can benefit from hearing or learning. The cost is, well, the cost of the plan, I should say, for Spol Nation, if they do come to see no, if we go to that step, is 15,000 for their plan. So you're not going to get a whole lot for 15,000. They're going to come in and say, all right, we'll buy this whole block and this is what we're going to do with it, you know, and here's what you do with the other blocks that we're not interested in. That's what I think we would get from that. This would be much more of a comprehensive, you know, master plan for the thing, and that comes in at, I think, about 50. I'm just gonna say it's 50. I can't. Yeah, it's 50. And then if they help us implement it, it's like $7,000 a month. So what I would like to do with this Veritas firm is to ask them to come in and present this proposal to the stakeholders, working group of the CRC and the town council, some of the Main Street merchants, restaurant owners, anybody who's interested in it. Have them come in and tell us what they can do, what we would get out of it, what it would cost. And then, you know, we could evaluate it from there, whether or not we want to go down that road. And I think we could do that subsequent to, you know, we could do it in a way where we can already get the cheap view from the Bellafont, firm. And then see if we want to add something, incrementally, if we think Veritas would be worth spending that additional money to get it. That's kind of like the general plan. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I like the idea of them presenting to stakeholders and us inviting the merchants and restaurant owners, anyone along that main office defender stretch.
We've had some other sites that, Marty. We've had some others that have come in and said, oh, we need this kind of business.
Thanks.
And,
Yeah.
It's a tap.
You don't need our strategic plan redelivered to us.
Yeah. Yeah. Places that we had that sold that stuff didn't make it. In the past, I can't see them making it in 2024, or the company. Need something that's actually viable. The people will buy into and shop at, not some off the cuff. You'd have a hat store or something.
Yeah, yeah.
One thing I know Veritas has done, I went to a conference, I can't remember the community, because there were so many I've been to last year, but they had done a big project on Main Street where their municipal building is at, and they created this large courtyard space. They did the design on it as well, so they do both plan it. They're a planner company, but they do have designers, so they'll even think through the space with you.
And create your RFP. for it
Yeah.
To be bid out for you if you
Yeah.
go that far.
The one thing I just thought was so interesting is they took a dead main street in that community, and what they did around the municipal building just totally revitalized their main street. And so here they were hosting a conference in that community. But they also had like this live entertainment going on their main street. So our conference like tagged onto it, like, oh, they've got that going on. So the conference organizers were like, can we bring our people? And I mean, I've never seen so many people on a main street on a Tuesday night. It's like, what the heck? This is crazy. But it was kind of an interesting thing to see. And they were one of the vendors at that conference, sponsoring that conference, obviously, because their work was right there in front of everybody, but it's kind of interesting.
So we can get EDC data that says we should have a tackle shop and another restaurant, right? And two McDonald's or something like that based on our population, but that this, my hope is that what we wind up with is a vision that everybody is aligned with, the current restaurant owners, the retailers, the town council, redevelopment commission.
Yeah.
Vine Culver, Main Street, the academy, right? They all have ideas as to what Main Street should do and should look like. And my concern is that there's like an opportunity in this building, a particular building goes up for sale and it looks cheap and redevelopment's got money. Why don't we go buy that building and we'll rehab it? And I really don't want to, I think maybe we should consider getting engaged in that kind of activity, but only once we've got a context for doing that work, and a vision that we're all trying to move together. And it may cost us 50 grand to get that alignment, that vision, but for me, that might be money well spent.
Yeah, we need a plan before we execute just random cherry picking.
It'll save money in the end. Having a clear, concise target, having your resource allocated towards that target will save you money in the end instead of just start throwing it to the wind.
And everybody invested in that same.
100%. Hook the horses to one cart.
All right, well,
Go.
I'll sponsor, the CRC will sponsor that work session. And I'll schedule it sometime after the first of the year. Coordinated with the small nation visit. So we can get the most bang for that
Yeah,
buck.
where they
Yeah.
can let us know how that went and give us feedback.
Okay,
It's great.
all right, great. That's what I got. Public input.
Bill Fountain,
Is that how it's said?
I'm from that area.
What do you think of it? What they did there? Do you have?
Well, they're in town of 13,000,
Yeah.
much bigger town of 1,300. They also have a ski area right nearby. You know, they needed some revitalization, for sure. There was not much going on there, so. Be interesting to see what people come back with.
Kevin, any thoughts?
No, I think it's a good idea to have a plan. I'm not sure, I think we should be comprehensive though, that all of our commercial areas should be included in.
You mean
The
the 10,
focus is the Main Street,
the 10 corridor?
10 corridor and expansion south and whatever, you know, we should grow from our Main Street. But when you're talking about a plan, the plan should be everything. So you're looking at the whole vision and we don't get caught up later that, oh, we didn't extend something far enough, or we didn't leave a tag on to go farther and that type of thing. So that was my question.
Yeah, and there are phases to that to some extent, 'cause you can't do it all at once. For sure, and then what's the sustainability around it, and how's that interrelate with other aspects of what's going on with the harvest moon or with Matthew and Moon Tree and all that stuff. The sustainability is the biggest issue.
Mhm.
To some extent, you can have great ideas, but if it's not sustainable stuff, you're not getting anywhere.
Yeah, and that regional buy-in and any
Yeah.
sort of regional partners that come into play, I agree. It's important to see beyond.
Right.
People.
In a small community like this, I think when you say sustainable, I think you're talking about services that are gonna bring people in on a weekly or
Sure.
monthly basis.
For sure. Population shrink.
That's 100%.
Right.
And they're gonna come in for services. They're not just gonna come in to shop.
Obviously, hopefully, the tie-in with the development over the dunes and other things, provides more affordable housing. It's not short-term home academy parents, pricing people on the market, one of them, but, you know.
But there's-
We convert, he's a
Yeah.
convert.
He's a
We're
convert.
perfectly fine.
We
He's the
love
poster
that.
child for what we're trying to do.
Full-time resident.
Mike, anything?
Thank you.
Any words of wisdom?
No, we looked into this, I don't know, 15 years ago. And I think it all begins with the downtown. I agree with Kevin. But the problem is, I think right now is that the structures are, for the most part, in pretty bad shape. And so any kind of a program downtown or in the Main Street program, let's say, would possibly be, a tear down. Except I don't know the name of the company in Ohio. But there was a company in Ohio that makes air compressors. And the two brothers went to the academy. And they were the people who bought these vacant lots up, or some of these lots up, tore buildings down, put new curbs, sidewalks in and things like that. The one, the corner of Jefferson and Main Street is one of those lots. And I don't know whether one of these organizations has worked with them, but they now, as I understand, in fact, I talked to someone the other day, they own the downtown.
Yeah.
And what they did was they kept the facades and they built their offices behind them. Now you've got a major company there that needs to provide jobs for I don't know how many people.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little different than this, but something like that is what needs to be done, with our downtown. It needs to start somewhere, and it needs to start with businesses that would supply needed facilities to the community itself. This 300 unit subdivision might be very interesting. Gotta have some place for those people to go. And,
Isn't that right, Mr. Collins? That's correct.
Fodder for the fire.
You bet. That's just,
He heard the word dunes.
Yeah.
all right.
I wouldn't have said that if Al weren't here.
I appreciate it more than
Throw the bone.
any other comments.
That's the Dickey family.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's it, the Dickey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreement.
Right. Yeah.
The vacant
That
lot.
basically what started second century when it was started years ago was the trip over conversation with Jim Dickey at that point.
Yeah, it's not the old Bremen.
New Bremen, Ohio.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll tour it as we come back.
All right, member input, Jerry. Yep. Sarah?
Nope.
Stanley? By me. Jenny?
I just want to thank you for all the work you do behind the scenes, Marty, to make these meetings productive. I think we had a really good year for planning. We really did a lot of critical thinking around the comp plan, and I'm looking forward to 2025. Just want to how much we appreciate you.
Well, you're very kind, but it was a team effort.
And Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to all of you. It's a good one, you guys. Everyone gets some downtime for the change and some relaxation. That's all I have.
Thank you, Jenny. You're very kind. Here.
I just want to say thank you to the CRC and to the town for supporting the Culver Youth Building Project. We get awarded 300,000 from Ready 2.0. So that's part one. So we're now waiting for Lily coming through too, and then we will have a new gym and classrooms for CYC by this point next year.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, thanks for the support.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's great. Thank you.
Yeah,
A lot of work. It was a
Yeah.
great team that's working on it. Yeah. All right, well, it was an honor.
Happy holiday, y'all.
Thank you. Turn the calendar. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
I'll second.
Approved. We're done. Thanks, everyone.
So
Yeah, same.
It's a full day,
We're gonna
kids.
sign
almost, it's
plans.
a 1-year term. We all have to submit a letter.
Someone's
today.
And we are.